Hi everyone, this is Catherine again. Welcome to the monthly MarketX Ventures webinar. In the next month, we're going to record a series focused on Fintech. Financial technology is an area MarketX Ventures truly believes is going to be a driving force for technology innovation. First of all, we would like to welcome the co-founders of Neem, a Pakistan-based embedded finance company that's going to change the world. We have the pleasure of welcoming Nadeem and also Vladimira. My colleague Kyle will interview and show us what we have in store in emerging markets when it comes to fintech innovation.
Afternoon, everyone. It's great to have you here for a MarketX webinar. We're extremely excited to be sharing with you a really exciting opportunity we're listing on the platform. It's a company called Neem, headquartered in Pakistan. The founding team, incredibly impressive and experienced, and we're lucky enough to be talking with them today about what it is that Neem is and what opportunities they're exploiting going forwards. We're delighted to have both Vladimira and Nadeem here today to walk us through the company in some more detail and show us what their exciting plans are for the next 18 months or so. Can you guys both hear me? Lovely to have you here. How are you? Why don't you guys give us a quick introduction on both of your backgrounds, and then we can go from there.
Pleasure to be here. We're dialing in from warm Karachi. It's like late evening here. But yeah, about Neem and ourselves. So my name is Vladimira. I'm one of the three co-founders of Neem. I originally come from Central Europe. I've been in Pakistan right now for about 5 years and passionately building a financial wellness platform. My background is very much in enabling innovation across different ecosystems, and it's sort of married with the, I would say, purpose and the impact that technology has. So studied human rights, but always sort of being passionate about emerging markets and how technology can scale impact for the right causes. So I think I'll leave it there, and I'll ask Nadeem to share a little bit about himself.
No, thank you so much for having us. I was born in Karachi and then ended up living when I was a kid and being in 12 countries around the world. So I'm a returnee, or what people call a Pakistani, right? Coming back, some version of that. So it's my background is I grew up a little bit in technology, fell in love with financial services and more the application of technology to financial services. I saw that as a route to bring on innovation around the world. Through journeys through corporate structures, running large organizations, to doing startups, to investing, and now building our own platform here in Pakistan is a culmination of a journey that started probably about 20 years ago, where getting deep into what it meant from a financial wellness point of view, and how do we impart that within a emerging economy, and and the joy of building a business with all its ups and downs, and we talk about it almost the daily ups and downs that happen, and the excitement that comes with it. That's what we're doing, and so that's a little bit of me and why we are sitting in Karachi and building this platform.
Amazing, and I think you guys have got some slides prepared, and we can go through those, and feel free to take it in whatever direction you'd like, and then we can jump into some questions at the end if that works. So why don't you guys kick us off with the presentation, and then I'll and then we'll chat some more at the end.
There is our beautiful Neem. I think Nadeem mentioned it already, that we are very much a purpose-driven business that is sort of healthy and scaling technology platform. Our vision is enable financial wellness. Financial wellness, in sort of one line, is going beyond financial inclusion. So providing businesses and individuals with more holistic financial products and services, everything from payments, credit, insurance, savings, and investments. Our vision is to provide those services to underbanked and underserved, what we call communities. And we are doing it in pretty differentiated way. So for the needs of the emerging markets like Pakistan, where we launched Neem, we understood that we need to go with the more sophisticated and tailored approach, which is in our case embedded finance. We are a tech infrastructure player. And what it means is really that we partnered with existing platforms in Pakistan across different industries, whether that is agriculture, logistics, e-commerce, fintechs. And we are integrating through APIs our tailored financial services and products into those platforms. And in that way, we are serving really millions of end users. We launched in Pakistan. I'll tell you why, but from day one, we were very clear that we are building Neem as a technology scalable company that we want to take to other markets, primarily regionally around here. Neem is not only market contributor, but very much a market creator. What that means is that we are bringing those financial services into communities that have been before completely excluded and underserved. In Pakistan, that really means over 120 million end users, individuals, and 3.3 million micro SMEs. The good news around Pakistan, very exciting news, is that it's a market where digitalization is growing exponentially. COVID really helped. And in today's macroeconomics, you might ask yourself, how is Pakistan sort of navigating it? In the spaces where Neem operates as a tech infrastructure player, the B2B and B2B2C plays, we are actually not seeing a major disturbance. It's the financial transactions that are happening in those sectors are very much to stay, and the fundamentals are grounded. So the impact has not been hard. There's lack of infrastructure players, so that was very clear for us to go this direction. We are a first mover. We have a first mover advantage. There is no other sort of banking as a service and embedded finance player today in Pakistan. And ultimately, what it gives us from a business model perspective is the minimal cost of acquisition of the customer, which we believe is key to sort of successful and healthy model. And we mentioned ourselves a little bit, but on the top of our two of us, there is a third co-founder, Naeem Zamindar. He's super essential, pillar of this business. What he brought to the complementarity of Nadeem's deep financial services experience and my operations, culture, and impact experience is really the local contextualized experience and the network that you absolutely need for a market like Pakistan. On the top of that, we have strong advisory board. I'll just mention two names, which is very exciting. We have head of M-Pesa, Philip Weber, with us, which is really the imposter of financial inclusion. And then also ex-founder of Fidor Bank, the neobank out of Berlin. So global players helping us to think also, how do we make Neem a global player truly, starting in Pakistan? I'll now hand over to Nadeem to tell you how we're doing this in terms of products.
So we're building a lot of the componentry, right? And so it's kind of like a lot of the fundamental blocks are going in as we think about the different areas and how best to serve them, right? And what is our strength and where can we bring the strength of our global ecosystem in terms of formulating products and services and how best to deliver them to the ultimate consumer or micro SME communities, right? So we have so far structured that into three places. One is a payments infrastructure, where we're providing these embedded payment products, comprehensive, across the board, in terms of servicing what a potential consumer or micro SME would need. We provide all the operation compliance and access to that KYC through a experience API, right? So taking all the complexity of the payments infrastructure and making it very simple, like the model we've seen in the rest of the world or other parts of the world, not rest of the world, other parts of the world. We also are building a strong marketplace, which is where we bring in partnerships to provide certain products where we need specialization. So we are working with lending partners, insurance partners, even people who are providing digital products to allow us access to a set of communities, which allows us to also cross-sell, both in terms of meeting their financial wellness needs, but also being able to cross-sell products from a payments perspective or lending perspective, right? Thirdly, we have our own lending as a service product, where we are taking our license, some of the third-party balance sheet, and the compliance and risk functions. We'll provide a service to other potential players in the market that are either trying to be lenders. They have the data, they have the analytics, but they don't have the infrastructure to provide the service, right? So each of these models represents a different growth path, different set of margins, but also allows us to play across a pretty wide spectrum of industries. So this is really where the current status, right? It is because it's a regulated space, all the required licenses, both from a payment infrastructure point of view as well as lending point of view, we have gotten them. We have products across the three layers we talked about in the last slide. They are all live in a number of communities. We have a significant number of pipeline. We will refer that to in shortly. We just became revenue generative over the last months or so. So that's kind of a good direction. We started to see uptake from various components of the infrastructure. Early stage, but we are grateful for that. We talked about the leadership team and the advisory board, but along with that, we have a pretty strong product, partnership, and tech team, people who have been in the industry both locally and globally. And we're building a really good DNA and culture, because for us, it's quite important, not just in what we're doing, but how we're doing it. So we're building a really special culture around people who are passionate about space and care about the space and want to make a real difference. And then finally, we'll talk more about that, but we have completed an initial round of 2.5, and we're now extending that around for additional capital. We have identified about 15 industry segments. Because we have a standardized infrastructure building, the ability to integrate into many segments is there. So the scalability for us is there. And then, as you can see, we have a representation from new players, new incumbents, incumbents, larger scale players. People, some of these platforms represent millions of customers, consumers, or micro SMEs. And we are like in different stages of really efficient pipeline management, where we are live, where we have integration going on, where we have contracts done or in the process of doing contracts, and then where the overall pipeline is, right? So just give you a perspective, a pretty healthy pipeline representing a lot of the opportunity.
I think the highlight of this slide is that we started generating revenue from a few of our product lines, which is really an important milestone for us. Our projected total revenue for this year is nearly crossing $1 million. So that's sort of what our North Star is and where the team is focused on. In terms of our sort of core KPIs here, we are very clear. So on the side of the communities, it's really what forms the number of communities or our communities as a KPI is it includes together the transaction value, the volumes, and the end users. But I think it's super important to emphasize that because we are a B2B2C player, the number of what we call communities, which are the digital platforms in the middle, is essential. And then on the side of the lending as a service is a third-party capital that we are helping to raise for our marketplace partners. We successfully managed to raise 2.5 million on a safe note. We are Singapore incorporated, which is very important for global investors. Then I think just to highlight, we are very keen to bring in investors who are not only sort of bringing the capital, but are very much partners to us. So some of the names that you can see on the slide represent really, truly, I would say, cream de la cream of some of the fintech global and local investors. And they do challenges every day, but they're a support to us, which we appreciate. And today we are keen to bring more investors on board. So it's one of the reasons why we are also talking. And I think maybe just to highlight, which is important for us as well, is that we are incentivizing everyone on the team, regardless of any position that they have. So ESOPs allocated.
Thank you so much for that. That was incredibly informative and very, very interesting. And I guess my first question is, my first question obviously goes to why Pakistan? Of all the emerging markets, and we all know how big the underbanked problem is within developing economies. Why was it Pakistan that was settled upon, and just how large is the problem within Pakistan?
Yeah, a great question, right? I mean, look, we looked at a lot of the markets, and if you think about where Pakistan is into the metrics compared to some of the other markets around it, it's one of the most underpenetrated markets, right? From a financial service point of view, from a financial inclusion point of view, from digitalization point of view. So it was, when we started talking to people and thinking about where we should be, it was one of the last frontier markets, right? Which has a huge potential. So it's one of those markets where you can, I spend a lot of time in London. There's a lot of underbanked people in London, right? But it represents a small number. It represents a number of maybe 1 million or 2 million, right? Here, it's like 120 million people. The TAM, as Vladimira mentioned before, is $167 billion TAM. So having a space where we can build the infrastructure and then having real life use cases that we can implement here with all the complexity and the opportunity landscape that's represented in Pakistan. It's also a landscape where we don't have to build the first, second, third generation, but almost can go to the fourth generation of platforms, right? So where we started with, neobanks, or then they go into open banking, then, kind of made the way to banking and service and better finance. Here we could jump all those layers to see, bring all that knowledge, expertise together, deliver, right? And if you solve for Pakistan, a market like Pakistan, the ability to take that infrastructure that we're building with a global emerging market in mind is then very doable, right? As opposed to doing the other way, we solve for a small market and then can say, okay, how do we now take it to a big market and all the issues, right? So, and that happened in serendipity that I am a Pakistani and Naeem was, has a Pakistani roots and so on. So that was serendipity. But as we were searching for our passion of financial wellness, which started a few years back, a lot of exploration of different emerging markets, spending a lot of time in Africa, into East Asia and so on, and then saying, hey, this is an opportunity. And serendipity brought us here, and then we saw the opportunity, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think one of the questions I'm most keen to hear the answer to is what you think is unfolding right now on the ground within Pakistan that is creating the ability for a digital financial system. You immediately think of situations like a completely underbanked, or very largely underbanked population not having the requisite data to build an effective kind of credit modeling system, for example.
Yeah, look, we're in a perfect storm, right? So it's a whole bunch of things have to come together. There was from a policy-making point of view, from a state bank's point of view, with their 5-year mission on financial inclusion, what they call financial inclusion, and kind of putting the regulatory process in place to ensure that some of the digitization of that and ease of digitization of the services was there. Industry after industry after industry, right? Doesn't matter which one you pick. You could pick any one of those segments: agriculture, micro SME, logistics, e-commerce is going through a digitization. People see the value of that, and that accelerated, as Vladimira said, through COVID and so on. That really accelerated. The 3G, 4G penetration, where Pakistan was behind some of these neighboring countries, has really picked up. And as we saw 8 years ago in Indonesia, when that happened, the rest of the economy grew alongside. So we're seeing a similar amount of penetration of smartphones. And again, so when that happens with the consumer level or the micro SME level, that is enabling people to then ask for services that can be delivered digitally, right? So you see that happening across all kind of product and service industries. And then there is a view of saying, here's an opportunity. So we've seen an influx of capital coming in. It's delayed, it's likely slowed down a little bit as it's happening globally. But that capital coming in saying, hey, there's an opportunity and there's a immense amount of talent in Pakistan in terms of entrepreneurs and so on, engineering talent, product talent, that is now being seen and saying, how can we create the right structures through the right kind of venture capital structures, angel investor structures, and so on, that enables this to happen, right? It's all those things coming together. We were joking around, talking to one of the investors the other day, and they were telling their story, and they're saying, look, at the moment we're going through this up and down every month. And we said, yeah, that's interesting. We, as startup founder, we go through that up and down every day, right? So there is a huge opportunity. In that requires a lot of hard work, and you have to think out of the box, and you have to bring a lot of the learnings, the experience that we have from the markets and apply it here. But that's what we're trying to do. And so we believe that now is the time over the next few years of being able to bring some of that to bear in terms of the infrastructure we're creating, because then we can really embed ourselves in between, no pun intended, as the industry and most of the economy getting digitized.
Maybe if I just add to that, I've heard today somebody saying that nobody's queuing for a flat roller coaster. So I think that's sort of the notion that we live in. I mean, we knew what we were sort of getting into, and especially in emerging markets. I mean, you love it. It's a deep passion. You know that you can create real impact, and you need to be nimble and agile. And that's what we are doing. And we are also, lastly, very much protecting our team so that they can be very focused, clear about the North Star, and keep hitting the milestones while we also keep them nurtured.
It's really a privilege, right? To be able to have the opportunity to build this thing, something we care about. And then hopefully, potentially, if we do this right, to really have a significant impact. So we see that as quite a privileged that we have that opportunity to do this.
Yeah, I can imagine. And just, I know we're coming up on time and we could probably talk about this all day, but I'd be really curious to hear what excites both of you most about what you're doing. Are there any kinds of products that you think are really pivotal to the expansion of the Pakistani economy or society more generally? And then beyond that, of course, in time as well.
So for me personally, one of the causes that I think very much committed and devoted to was serving and empowering the communities that are really excluded. And one of them are women communities. And that's a big time sort of case here in Pakistan. Only 7% of women have access to bank account. It even gets worse when we're talking about other products like credit, insurance. Even though we all know that when you empower a woman, you are empowering the family, the village, the whole community. In that regard, what I find very exciting and powerful about our model is that we are actually amplifying already existing communities that have been working with women here in Pakistan in both cities and rural areas. And we are empowering and sort of uplifting those existing communities and platforms by bringing tailored financial services for those end users, in this case, women. So it's not about us saying, hey, we're going to save those women and be the sort of the hero here. We are actually going to amplify and help the existing businesses that have been working on this cause, targeting women for many years, really, have that local knowledge. We are now amplifying those. And in that sort of, I would say, theory of change, we are also helping to improve lives of women in Pakistan. So for me, that's something that, I mean, wakes me up every morning for sure.
But really, for me, if I had to pick one thing, it's like, it's the learning, the experience of the global ecosystem. And you see that represented in our team, in our partners, in the advisory board. So there's a lot of stuff that we can apply here because it's almost, in some cases, it's a blank piece of paper, right? So we don't have to be bound by previous rules and saying, hey, there are already 10 neobanks, so we will be the 11th one and stuff. So this is like, we have a freedom here. With freedom comes responsibility, right? We have to build a business. We have to be very focused. We have to think about the right thing, what the right metrics are. How do we create a business that is revenue generative in a short period of time, EBITDA positive in a short period of time. So we are targeting 3 years because we know that a market doesn't allow us for just keep building for 10 years before we can be profitable, right? So with that comes responsibility, but also comes a lot of opportunity. And there's a lot of excitement because then you have all these tools in your toolbox, right? And say, hey, I know this stuff and I can pick different things and apply them in a way which gives a lot of freedom, right? So you're not encumbered by this is the only way to do this. And so oftentimes people ask us who else in the world is doing something similar. And we end up kind of a little bit like this and a little bit like that and a little bit, because that's really where we are. We are taking the best in class of different companies that we see as North Stars, as guiding principles, as people that we can look to and say, yep, this is something they did right. But it allows us to amalgamate that in a very different way. And that's where the exciting part is for me.
But thank you so much for your time again today. I'm really looking forward to working together in the future and building something really, really impressive. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cal.